Hey everyone, it's Ray. So, I was like super duper sleep and I woke up. I woke up and I checked my Facebook and I just saw some hell no statuses. Um, Apparently, I don't follow gay marriage at all. I don't care about it, mainly because I am young and I don't have anyone in my life that I want to marry. So maybe so I don't follow gay marriage. And a part of not following gay marriage is not knowing that the Supreme Court was actually ruling on gay marriage this morning. So it happened, and they decided that same-sex marriage bans are unconstitutional. So I believe there are like 26 states that actually have constitutional bans in their state constitution. That says same-sex marriage, like defining marriage between a man and a woman, right? Which isn't banning same-sex marriage. Well, it's effectively banning same-sex marriage, right? And the Supreme Court's like, yeah, no, that's sort of kind of against our constitution as a country. So here, I have a few things on marriage equality. I'm going to say it's not marriage equality, right? I really, and the reason I say this is because people think of marriage as like this lovey-dovey, I love you and I want to spend my life with you and I want to build a home with you type. That's quite frankly not what marriage is. My parents were together for 15, almost 16 years. They never got married. My mom was like, marriage is the worst. It makes it impossible to leave. She said it makes it harder to leave when you really want to cut somebody, and catching a felony was just not what she was trying to do, which I just actually really agree with. Marriage, though, the benefits of marriage, right? It's not about marriage, it's about the benefits of marriage. And the benefits of marriage are like tax breaks, which is like a really big one. I'll come back to why tax breaks are important. And being able to visit your spouse in the hospital, stuff like that, right? And for me, I'm just like, I don't think we should be fighting for marriage. I think we should be fighting for access to those benefits without being married, right? And I say tax breaks as the first thing because tax breaks are really the reason that, if you go back to 2 years ago when DOMA was repealed, DOMA was actually repealed because of tax breaks. The woman who went up to the Supreme Court and said, hey, I need you to repeal this one part of DOMA so I don't have to pay $400,000 on the estate tax from my partner dying. I'm married to this woman. I'm 72 and we spent like 50 years together. I shouldn't have to pay taxes on this estate because you don't have to pay state tax. You don't have to pay taxes on an estate that you inherit from a lover, or like your significant other. So when they die and like their assets become yours, you don't have to pay taxes on them. But any other inheritance, you do have to pay taxes on. So that's why DOMA was repealed. I'm also from New Jersey, and New Jersey actually allowed gay marriage because of taxation. So in New Jersey, a lot of people either live in New York and work in New Jersey, or live in New Jersey and work in New York, which means you actually file taxes. You have to file taxes for New Jersey, because New Jersey has this law that if you file federal taxes, you must file state taxes. So everyone who does either of those two things, file New Jersey taxes. If you live in New York and work in New Jersey, at the time, you were legally allowed to be married. And once DOMA was repealed, you were legally allowed to file your taxes as a married couple, right? In New Jersey, not only if you file state taxes, you have to file federal taxes. How you file your federal taxes is how you have to file your state taxes. So if you file your federal taxes as a married couple, you have to file your state as a married couple. So because you could live in New York, be married in New York, file New York taxes and federal taxes as a married couple, a lot of gay people were going to do that. New Jersey then realized because of that, people who lived in New York and worked in New Jersey, by their own standards, by the standards they have set forth, right, that like a man and a woman could not file taxes as a married couple, and that you had to file your federal the same way you file your state, gay people could actually avoid taxation because of their own laws. So New Jersey was like, oh, hell no. We about to get your money. And that's how gay marriage actually got passed in New Jersey. Gay marriage had been brought up to our government a few times before, and it was voted down twice. I know once was when I was in high school. I was a senior in high school, and then once after that when I was in college. And then suddenly they're like, oh crap, we need our money, and they actually allowed gay marriage. So like, marriage is a lot about taxation. To be clear, it's just a lot about taxation. Whatever the case, I do believe that everyone should be allowed to pay gay taxes, get gay divorced, and get gay tax breaks. I'm here for that. However, that is not a tool of liberation, in my opinion, right? And my issue is so many people, too many people on my Facebook, and a few people who are no longer my friends on Facebook, posted something along the lines of, today is the day we need to celebrate marriage equality and be happy and not focus on other things. It's like, oh, no, that's not how that works. See, as a trans person, as a black person, as a working class person, I kind of sort of don't care about marriage equality because it's not equal. Marriage does not benefit the majority of people who get married. Marriage benefits people who are what we would define as middle class, but I like to just say upper class and like the upper class. So like, if you're not making like $100,000 a year as a couple, marriage isn't actually going to benefit you that much outside of saying I'm married. Like, that's just real. Actually, I think you could probably make, depending on where you live. Like in New Jersey, it's like $100,000. It's like really where you start to see the benefits of marriage, and your tax brackets changing and shifting a little bit. So it's not actually equal because the benefits aren't given across the board to everyone. Also, like, do not tell me that today is not a day for me to talk about the injustice, right, and the unprivileges that some queer bodies have, right? I think that the most privileged people today won, and that's cool. That's great. That's good for them. Go get married. But don't say that because of that, we can't talk about the fact that Obama has not done anything for queer and trans immigrants. Immigration is at an all-time high. And as a black person, I'm really concerned because black immigrants are actually deported 6 times the rate of any other group, right? So I don't really care about marriage equality when like queer people aren't being allowed to stay in this country, right? Obama hasn't really done anything to provide housing for trans women of color in this nation. In case you didn't know, like, trans women of color are disproportionately at a staggering rate actually live in extreme poverty, which is less than $10,000 a year. There are not many places you can survive. I can't even think of a place that you can survive for less than $10,000 a year. Like, unless you have like a beautiful lush farm that sits somewhere where people don't want to make you pay rent. I don't understand how you're living on $10,000 or less a year, right? He has done 0 things to end mass incarceration. As a black person, that bothers me. But trans women of color, once again, are disproportionately placed into prison for like crimes of poverty, we call them crimes of survival. But like, what happens when you're poor and you need to survive and like you can't get a job, right? So don't tell me that today I need to be quiet about the injustices in this world, because today is the same day that some queer immigrant will be deported. Today is the same day that some trans woman will not go to work. Today is the day that some trans woman of color will wake up in prison because she had to sell her body to make ends meet. Today is the same day that some trans woman will opt out of going outside because the world has yet to care about protecting them, right? Like, those are also things that's happening. Like, today is the day that some trans kid will choose to kill themselves. Today is the day that some trans person will have to drop out of college, right? Like, these are things that like I care way more about than the most privileged people within the acronym of LGBTQI plus. I would just say plus. There's a lot of things there. All like within that acronym, the most privileged people today won. I just don't care about that. It's not, and I'm not saying it's not important. It's just not my goal at all. Like, it's not the biggest it's not the biggest issue, and it's also just not the queerest issue. So, like, and my issue is, like, be happy. I do believe that if you fall into that category, go out, have a drink, celebrate. I'm sure there's an event you can go to because it is Pride Weekend in a lot of cities. I actually totally forgot that it was Pride Weekend. It kind of just snuck up on me. Go out and have a drink, but the moment you say that we don't need to focus on anything else today, what you're really saying is, oh, let's silence people who are less privileged than us. And I want you to be very, 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 very clear on that is what you're saying. Like, you are saying right now is not a moment for you trans people or for you black people or for you poor people to, like, come out of the woodworks talking about the inequities of the world, because us cis more privileged folks can get married, and that is nonsense that I'm over. And I also want to be clear, I often say, like, cis gay folks, there are definitely trans gay folks who are probably happy they get married, but that's still, once again, not the most marginalized groups aren't gonna care. And it's not that you have to be, like, sad or anything. It's that you don't have to silence other issues, right? Like, that's my issue with this. It's don't silence other people because they can't really celebrate in this. Like, I know a lot of people who this doesn't impact at all. Like, this doesn't impact at all, right? A lot of the trans women I know are heterosexual, but, like, their marriage would be seen as a gay marriage because, like, they can't legally get their name changed because it's too expensive, or the state they live in don't allow it. Like, things like, or they can't get their gender markers switched, right? Like, those are things that are, like, slightly more important to me. So that, all I'm saying was, I will say this: do not attempt to silence people who do not have the same privileges as you, because when you do that, you're just being a violent, oppressive individual. And today is a great day for you and me to not fuck with each other anymore. Period, point blank. If you try that nonsense, I will stop fucking with you. That's it.